All right, we're here. Let's do it. Open up the rabbit hole, go down like Alice, talk about the whole thing, take out our red pills and LSD or whatever else people are doing these days to come up with these ideas. And welcome to the show. This is Chris Poulos. This is the Awake Show. And I'm all about dissecting ideas, dissecting culture, spirituality included in that culture, and what it means for where we're headed and how people process things. There's just so much to unwrap. I've done this show for about 2 years now. Um, at first on a different channel, and we closed that down, and now I'm on this channel. And the more I look into what I'm interested in and what I sometimes prey on, the more I realize there are some very common denominator issues with our minds. I was just in a call at a very big moment where even my own mind was misinterpreting something. And once you have one little screw loose on the tire of a car, eventually the other spokes go out and you're into a great accident. And that goes for the intellectual world, that goes for the spiritual world, that goes for the psychological world, that goes for the political world. Just pretty much anything that involves fallen humans, we can screw up pretty badly. Now, that does not mean we throw away our minds and go off the deep end in the other direction, saying, well, if we mess up, then we should just listen to anything. We should just go with our emotions or, check out, screw it. I don't want to get involved. I'll just become a kind of self absorbed person who goes with their own base impulses because everything's screwed up. Oh, I'm sorry. There goes my lamp. My lamp unplugged. It's a little bit too far away from the outlet. Don't know what happened there. Bear with me, folks. It'll be right up soon. There we go. I think that'll be the last time that happens. Uh, so, so in comes this conspiracy iceberg, and I'm really enjoying the channel Wendigoon because all he does is inform, and he has a team of people, or he bounces off of different people who see via the internet the plethora of information and philosophies that have built up in the 20th to 21st century, and some of it goes all the way back to the 15th century. But this one is a good one. The other one, he did a religion and cults iceberg, which is a little bit more specific in terms of spirituality and the different kinds of not very well known spiritualities out there. But this one was great because he had these tiers, and each tier is crazier than the next, or seemingly crazy. Each tier challenges certain conceived assumptions about our reality, whether it be small, like, did you know that this particular group of people were in on the JFK assassination and it wasn't who you think it was? And it could also be something like, well, we're in a simulation. We're all in a simulation, and that's why things are starting to fall apart because the simulation's falling apart, or it's all a big experiment. And that's interesting because the simulation theory, and this is just one of many theories, is based off of that famous saying, I think, therefore I am, by Descartes. And a lot of people like to use that, unfortunately, in Christian circles as a proof of consciousness or a soul. That's actually not a very good phrase to use. In fact, many people around Descartes started wondering if we're actually brains in jars in a laboratory. And a lot of this kind of thinking comes from that. It's a semi solipsistic way of thinking. Maybe we're not even in the true reality, we're in the matrix. But some of these ideas are much older than I realized when looking into them. They're not all just crazy new internet ideas from dubious sources that may not be sober. A lot of these ideas are founded on things that have happened in history and some actual historical evidence to them, or at least something worth investigating. So I mentioned there's some in my trailer, there's some hollow earth theories and Antarctica theories. And although I'm not saying I ascribe to them, there have been some cover ups by the government and people that have gone in certain places that have found some interesting strangeties that you normally wouldn't. Let's just say discrepancies in what is normal when they're looking into certain ruins and things. So, the point of this stream is that when there's lots of different kinds of ideas and when there is a huge diversity of thought, we have this issue in our kind of egocentric Western idea where we have this, it's almost like wearing it like a string of pearls, you know? There's this thing in academia now where it's like, instead of quality, you just like, I know of many things, and therefore I am the exalted one. I am of great respect because I can talk about lots of things. That's not how it works, or that's not how it's supposed to work. And yet you have, I don't know how many generations, but like socialism, for example. Oh, I know about the great uh, Karl Marx, and did you hear about the inequality of capital? And they just say stuff that sounds very smart. And just because there's a lot of ideas flowing around does not mean that they're correct. We need to ground ourselves in that. Just because it seems intelligent does not mean it is not a fabric of someone's extremely creative imagination. And it just because it even has a few good points doesn't mean it isn't ultimately destructive. Okay, a good scholar, and we should all try to be good scholars, especially in this day and age where everything's at our fingertips. A good scholar is very careful and looks at things objectively, cross references, tests the evidence. Okay, yes, just because I'm a man of faith doesn't believe I also believe. It doesn't mean I don't believe in that as well. In fact, that goes together with our faith, but that might be another talk for another time. So, if you don't do that, if you get too kooky, or if you just accept everything that sounds nice into your mind, you will become a very disordered person and you might even go insane. Where do I think all of this is heading? Well, here's one thing you first have to know. Let me get my logo out of the way. The first thing you have to start doing when you are looking at all these ideas, whether or not they're true or not, is to learn from history, please. Okay? History is a very underestimated field of study, and I would say it's even by the powers that be, let's just say, intentionally put down. There's a few people working in the American public school system trying to suppress the reality of what went on with slavery and which party supported it. And they're trying to do this critical race theory, for example, when the hard evidence of the fight against slavery shows that there were a heck of a lot of white people that have always been against slavery. And anyway, again, I don't want to digress too far into that area, but these ideas remind me a little bit of the fall of Rome, okay, and the decline of Rome. What happened in Rome? So I'm a history teacher, and I like learning about this time period in particular. There's a few others I'm interested in, but in Rome, the Romans had this religion which was based on the success of the state. Big mistake. I don't know why people keep doing this. Maybe it's because Rome was ruling everything, so they assumed the gods um, were must have been the most powerful. And this is not a new idea. The Egyptians did it. The Babylonian city states did it. The mandate of heaven has gone on even into Christianity and China. All right, this is idea that God blesses the, the nation, or the gods are managing the nation, and therefore, if the nation is at a particular success rate, then the gods are in control. And we worship the gods because clearly, since Rome is the most powerful civilization, then we must have the best gods. And that's how the Romans thought. The Romans thought in a very simplistic terms, and it's kind of a shame. The Greeks and the Romans had such brilliant philosophers, but their religion was so superficial. Now, I'm not saying they didn't have spiritual experiences. There actually is a lot of writing on that. Many religions actually do. But when you put your eggs into the basket of God only provides worldly blessings, and that God cannot allow our great country to fall, or something like that, or something that is bound to eventually disappoint, you got issues. I find us falling into at least the same line of thinking a lot of the times, even though we're not Roman. I see the same spirit of it. So many people, when they go to religion, and it's really weird how people will, let's say, rebel against the mainstream Christianity. They then go to another philosophy or religion, New Age or something else, and then they say stuff like, well, the reason why I am into this fill in the blank is because I believe that the universe will bless me and I will become prosperous, or something along the lines of that. It's quite amazing. I used to think that these were more esoteric religions, a lot of these religions that are coming up, but they're really not. A lot of them have like the law of attraction and all of these strange ideas. They actually kind of see it more like witchcraft, and some people do witchcraft. They're just wrapped up in what can it do for me. Okay, that is the opposite of the honest person of intellectual integrity. The person of intellectual integrity looks for truth first, okay? Not, and they have to try their best to take themselves out of their own biases. We wouldn't be pretty far if we, as a civilization or anywhere, if we went by our impulses or any comfortable truths, okay? And people that do that don't end up very well, as you can clearly see here. It doesn't end very pretty for those people. So all these people going into these philosophies and religions or whatever, without anything deeper other than it makes me feel good, and it's going to get me things or whatever. Well, when the local warlord comes to town and blows up everything, and the cross happens, when suffering happens, they usually don't know what to do. They usually go insane, they jump off cliffs, whatever. Um, and so a lot of these conspiracies on Wendigoon are kooky and crazy. Many of these are clearly from the UFO cults, or from, New Age stuff. And 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 you need to look at history, okay? During the fall of Rome, you may not know this, but as Rome was beginning to decline, people were, and the church fathers have written about this, like St. Augustine. People were getting into other cults, cult of Mithras, cult of Persephone, and these were very emotional cults trying to aim for some deeper values and feelings than, oh, we're Roman, we go to Roman church, and therefore we're good Romans. Boy, doesn't that sound very similar to how many people have their faith? Oh, we're a good American, Canadian, European, whatever. I go to church once a year, and that's it. And one day I hope to go to heaven. And God helps those who helps themselves. And some people believe in prosperity gospel. Oh, God will make me money, and He'll give me whatever. There's nothing deeper than that. And then when that eventually falls apart, what they make excuses, or they join another cult, or they completely self-destruct. That's usually what we see. So that's what we saw in Rome, and that's what we see with the New Agey cults and all of that nonsense. These people often are very miserable. The founders are usually found, uh, wearing driving expensive cars, Rolls Royce, Rolls Royce car. They're usually found with drugs or something, or there's a lot of child abuse, sadly, in these cults. Pride comes before the fall, I guess. I don't know, but let's just say the founders are not people of integrity. So do your research, into who is giving this information, who is, even if it seems like a very interesting, imaginative philosophy or religion, who's giving this information? Where is it coming from? Is it founded well on any sort of truth, or are these people of good repute? I can at least give the mainstream religions this, like, um, let's say, Sikhism, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, most of the mainstream religions. I'm not going to mention one, but but if you look at the founders of most of the mainstream religions, of course, Jesus Christ, these are people that clearly, with the witnesses there, anyone doing some sort of asceticism and self-denial, at least to me, shows that they have some kind of integrity. They are trying to seek some kind of truth. Okay. Also, another thing you have to look for is transcendental values. Okay. Now, these are not invincible how-to tips, how to discern if a conspiracy theory is legitimate or not. I'm just saying that these might be worth looking into. Okay, but are there transcendent values in an idea? Okay, so there could be ideas about honesty and purity and compassion and all of that good stuff. Is that being registered here? Is it showing an objective look at reality that makes sense? Is that what's going on? If not, then you can have the most advanced, oh, there's elves and warlocks and dwarves, and there's three different gods, and we're in the firmament, and I'm just spouting off lots of different phrases, that you hear from the religion slash conspiracy theory iceberg. Oh, there's actually the government's got us combined in the Saturn matrix, and the earth is flat, and I heard that there's UFOs, and there's different kinds of UFOs, and there might be trans-dimensional angels. You can make all this stuff sound great, okay? And if it doesn't have any sort of thing other than just a giant 3D IMAX movie spectacle, then I would say get a lot of bags of salt out, okay? I mean, I could ask one of my elementary school students to make up some strange cult, for fun, and I'm sure they can come up with some great ideas, right? So, yeah, is it made up? It's possible, or it's someone that's not mentally sound, or someone who has delved into the occult. It could be something like that, or recreational drugs, or it could be they're in their own delusion, and there's sometimes you have people that are extremely intelligent but have no discipline, no mental discipline, and boy, can that be a ticking time bomb. Okay, you can have someone who may have incredible brain power, but something is so disturbed in them, or they have like a kind of narcissism or something, where they actually just go with whatever comes through their head, and if it makes them feel good, if it seemingly makes sense of the universe, then they're just gangbusters into that idea, and usually that doesn't end very well. So those are some possibilities. Now, oh yeah, Elizabeth's here. Thank you for reminding me. Then there's also paranoia. Okay, now, the fear of the world breaking down is a delicate thing. All right, and this is, I guess, going into my next topic a little bit ahead of schedule, but I'll get back to it. It's a delicate thing. Your senses shouldn't be ignored. I'm not saying your senses should be ignored. I'm not saying the world isn't breaking down and there isn't something rotten in the state of Denmark. What I am saying is if you let fear consume you, this can lead you to end up with some pretty kooky ideas and all kinds of problems, okay? Now, yes, this is how the cults get you, okay? If you study cults, they look for that. However, you shouldn't stick your head in the sand, and that's what I'll come back to. Okay, there's a balance. There is a balance that is very hard to achieve. I hope that for those listening, you may consider joining this group where we pray the divine office and do contemplative prayer, and we're grounded in the church, and we do recognize how pretty bad things are, but we try to stay grounded and balanced in the Lord and in the truth of the gospel and the church teachings, which is healthy for the psyche of a human being and good for those around you and for your own soul. A cult will take that fear and send you into these strange, trippy, Martians, the government is a simulation, and all these strange ideas that are not really founded because when you're in a disturbed um, and this is very fringe psychology, but it's been observed. When people are disturbed in their mind, they can see patterns much easier than others. It's like when you're focused on one thing. Oh, it said my recording stopped. Let me just see if it's still running. Oh, it seems like I'm still live here. Let me just check real quick. May have to free up space apparently on my computer. No, it says it's fine. Okay, I don't know what XSplit's trying to tell me, but it's fine now. That's weird. Anyway, um, for example, there's gang stalking where people think that they're constantly being followed by gangs, and that's an actual known symptom of paranoia and extreme uh, broke disorder in the mind. To the almost fringe mental illness that this can happen. People are following me. I've seen it. I saw what I think was the same car drive by or the same people. That's something to be a little bit skeptical of, and where you should pull back and say, okay, is this actually happening? John Nash, a famous mathematician at Princeton, he had extreme paranoid schizophrenia. Fortunately, he was actually able to see the state of his mind, that he wasn't right in the head. But he believed that the government was watching him, and he believed in these kinds of conspiracies. So, it's if someone's actually mentally ill, what do you say? What do you do? I mean, God bless them, protect them. But there are people I think that aren't so far gone that may be falling into that and start they're on the way, but they're not past the event horizon, not past the black hole. There's still hope. So I hope that this can reach the ears of anyone who's going down that path. Don't let yourself be fear driven. Let yourself be truth driven. And that's completely different, by the way, because many times what happens is a fear led person can think they're seeking truth, and they do find some truth because they're looking everywhere for it, but then they don't even realize that emotionally that fear is manipulating their own conscious. And their own consciousness, and without knowing it, they start getting into these strange ideas and start insisting they're right because their mind's breaking down to a certain extent. Thank God I never got that bad off, but it could have happened to me. They call it the black pill. Um, okay, so that's where a lot of these ideas come from. But I'm not here to completely discredit everything because he took every kind of conspiracy theory, and some of which have already been proven true. Okay, but there is one more ish kind of spiritualistic and psychological philosophy and religion that seems to be behind, or a spirit of this behind a lot of these ideas. Okay, now this is Gnosticism. Gnosticism is this syncretic idea. It's a form of religion. There's different kinds of Gnosticism, but it usually is a religion that involves believing that matter is bad, and if there is a God, God is light, which means not like in the light of truth, like Christians believe it, but he wants us to be enlightened to the fact that matter is bad and there's an afterlife. There's no resurrection, so there's no belief in the incarnation. And then there's another kind of Gnosticism, which at first I was like, well, how can, let's say, this one right here, Manichaeism, the prophet Mani is one example. How does he believe that many religions are the same, but at the same time matter is bad? Because that's, I think it's like combining a hippie with a very strange traditional, puritanical Amish person. I don't know. It was just, I was like, how does Manichaeism work? And I've always been puzzled by that because I hear of these two different kinds of Gnosticism which seem different, but he put them all together. And I'll tell you how, because when you have a very bright person who may be spiritually deceived, and also has a very strong imagination, you can be amazed at how seemingly disparate ideas can be combined or said to be together on all as one. It's just incredible. And there seems to be so many of these ideas on this conspiracy iceberg. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this is the same kind of people making their own brand of things. Okay, so here's an example of what I'm talking about. Manny said that he was the incarnation of the Holy Spirit, and you had Jesus was incarnate second person, but Manny was the incarnation of the third person of the Holy Trinity. But then Manny said, well, Jesus was trying to get you there, but I'm here to take you to the next step. This is a very common thing lots of people use in these cults and religions like these. And the next step is that matter is the problem. Our bodies are the problem because we sin in our bodies. And in reality, there's this dualistic force. There's an evil force, and then there's this higher God than even Yahweh, who is like the God of energy and light and whatever. And he combined like almost like Zen Buddhism with Christianity. And he actually believed the same old thing that like there's a connection with Buddha and Jesus, Deepika Chopra, every time we see the same hogwash in these kinds of things. But he said, well, if sin comes from the fact that our flesh is bad, then all we have to do is be aware of it and enlighten ourselves, kind of like Buddhism, like through this prayerful awareness of all is one in this higher realm, and that we're not meant to be on earth. We're meant to transcend our bodies and not have the bodies is evil. We're supposed to get away from that. We're going to go into super heaven, This is beyond what Jesus was saying. There's a super heaven, and Buddha and Jesus were both trying to point us towards that. And that just sounds wonderful. And you can read about Manichaeism. You can look it up, and it is just it just sounds so amazing. Like he has all these different realms, and he combined this and that, and it's like Zoroastrianism mixed with this and mixed with the Christianity and Buddhism, and it just sounds just like, wow, that's just amazing. Just so amazing. Well, St. Augustine was involved in this, and he said, I still thought that it is not we who sin, but some other nature that sins within us. It flattered my pride to think that I incurred no guilt, and when I did wrong, not to confess it. I preferred to excuse myself and blame this unknown thing which was in me but was not part of me. The truth, of course, was that it was all my own self, and my own impiety had divided me against myself. My sin was all the more incurable because I did not think myself a sinner. Okay? So, right from the horse's mouth, someone who was involved in this, I think it was a cult, honestly. It did get big enough for people to call it an organized religion, but boy, does it have all the trappings of it. And it sounds so good on paper, but because of this cult, many people would commit suicide. Many people would excuse their sin, and their pride would swell like a balloon. I mean, if you don't believe you sin because it's all this very abstract cosmic stuff happening that we really don't have any control over, then by golly gee whiz, break out the potato chips. I'm gonna lounge back and do whatever I want because, or maybe I'll try a little bit. I'll try a little meditation, and maybe one day I'll stop reincarnating and I'll get to Jesus Buddha heaven or something. Okay, it really got the Buddhists mad when Manichaeism got there because they were like, this isn't what we teach. And then of course, when the Christians, they started trying to infiltrate the Christianity and they started knocking heads with the Christians, this isn't what we teach either. So the Christians and the Buddhists were not okay with this, as well, of course, many governments who thought that this was big trouble coming to town. And yet, there's all of these ideas on this iceberg that makes me think of this. It's like these just seem like disordered, emotionally disturbed people who are bored, they want something exciting, or they want answers, and they're running by desperation, not by truth, into these whacked out ideas. Okay, like flat Earth is unironic now. I mean, probably not that many people believing in it, but that's still pretty sad. And there's other such crazy ideas out there. Um, and so that's happening, and you look at the actual values of, let's say, Christianity and Buddhism, and if you really study them, there's such a chasm of difference. All right, there are some shared things. There is an emphasis on compassion and peace, and we are supposed to aim for that. But the ways to get there are completely different. On one hand, you have the divine God man Jesus Christ, who gives us grace and conquered sin on the cross and gives us the grace to participate in that redemption. And there is no reincarnation, and so it's all basically him being glorified, not us. On the other hand, you have no belief or interest in that possibility, and you have self-salvation. You have meditating yourself to achieve some kind of inner peace. Okay, so it's more of a level of psychological being that the Buddhists are aiming for. Okay, completely different. You can't mix them because they're two different premises. It's like saying chemistry is the same as calculus. Well, is there chemical engineering which uses some calculus? Yes. But you can't say it's the same thing. Let's get back to common sense here. It's this idea that and then, I mean, it's Manichaeism at least stuck with Christianity and Buddhism. I can see someone trying to connect. Well, after all, you had Thomas Merton, who's a famous Catholic writer, who I need to read some of, who actually attempted to look at Buddhism and see if they are compatible, and he didn't. According to Thomas the Hermit, he he didn't find that, but he did learn a lot about it. And I have read a book called An Unexpected Way, which is by an ex-Buddhist turned Catholic, and he has some very interesting comparisons if you're interested. But if you are serious about learning the truth, let's get our heads right here and remember that 1 + 1 = 2. Water is wet. Let's not say 1 + 1 is the universe or what, right? We have to stop this emotional thinking here. Okay, so I've rambled on enough about that. Now, all of these crazy ideas aside, and there's plenty of them, there is something else that happened while perusing the Iceberg, which is very interesting. And the truth was that he said it himself, Wendigoon said it himself, and he's correct. He would often run into these conspiracy theories that he's like, well, that's actually been proven already. So is it really a conspiracy theory? There is another issue in going the off the ship on the other direction where it's like anything uncomfortable and scaring me and challenging my perspective on things being out there that I can't understand must be wrong because there's no way that something that spooky can exist. I am here to burst your bubble, okay? We have the revelations of WikiLeaks. We have the revelations of it was public, Epstein's Island. We have the revelations of the laptop business with the Bidens. We have the revelations of false flags, all declassified now because no one's really interested, but declassified stuff on how the CIA did a lot of bad things. MK Ultra is a known historical fact. We do have discrepancies or interesting anecdotes when it comes to JFK's assassination. There is government cover-ups. I mean, this is historical stuff. So don't go around just because some people are clearly whacked out in the head thinking that anything that is strange isn't worth looking into. Okay? It especially, I don't know, I always just get mad when people like you have these people that say they're Christian I run into and they are so doubtful of they so are so trusting in the government, okay, and they're so trusting in particular shady individuals, and I'm like, look, do you believe in a devil? Yes, yes, he's a fallen angel. And is he the prince of all lies? Yes, he's very deceptive. Okay, yeah, all right. You believe in evil? Yes. Okay, so if you can believe in an invisible monster that tempts people, has supernatural power, and can lead people to do all kinds of horrible things, and it can demonic possession, all that. You can believe something that far out. Why can't you believe in this? Hello? There's just such lack of self-awareness in our heads. We don't even see how ironic we can be sometimes. I'm sorry, but if you believe in God and the devil and angels, and especially if you open up the good book to the description of angels and what they can do and what God can do, then you're just going to have to buckle up, buckaroo, and get ready for some pretty wild things being possible. Okay? So that's just the way it is. Now, for the people that don't believe, they also have some issues quite clearly. You have these scientists who are making these theories on this iceberg where every time they run into something in the universe that they can't explain, instead of saying, oh, I can't explain, there's stuff that we don't understand, there's stuff that doesn't make sense. Well, this is what they say, there must be multiverses out there or some kind of new string theory. I think the walls are closing in on the intelligentsia of scientism. You mean to tell me you think that there's infinite parallel universes, no references cited, or whatever, or new superstrings, no references cited, to make account of some of the things you can't understand in the universe, but you won't accept the possibility that maybe there's something else, maybe there's an intelligent design, or maybe there's just something you don't understand yet? That shows me something about a lot of these guys. This is clearly an emotional or some kind of hang up they have. I don't know what it is, but there are people out there that are afraid of anything that cannot be explained by their own minds. And it could be it can be, there are spiritual things like the people I mentioned here. There is going into some cult and trying to make sense of the universe that way, but there's also doing it through science. Like, there has to be a scientific explanation because I refuse to accept anything other than that. So I must make up some completely, like, abstract theory just to fill in the gaps for God, because I don't want to believe that there might be something beyond the universe. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Um, Father Ripperger talked about this in a talk as well, on how it just seems like another religion now. That's look what you're doing. Oh, it has to be science. That person came back from the dead. It must be a scientific explanation. Maybe there's some kind of super string that brought them from that. Oh, that person was faith healed. Must be science. Maybe there's a telekinetic ability in people's minds that can cause you to heal someone's cancer instantly or something like that, right? Oh, the Shroud of Guadalupe. There must be a scientific explanation that there's like different codexes and things on there and how it never like rots away. There must be a scientific explanation. Maybe there was a Martian gas that came down and changed the chemical fabric of Juan Diego's mantle at the right time, and flowers were spontaneously the neutrinos created flowers and the apparition and the hologram or something. Maybe there's a time traveler making holograms that of Mary to try to from the future propagate his Catholic. It's just like, give it a rest. we, I mean, at a certain point, you just gotta be like, okay, is it me? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm trying to avoid something I don't want to come to terms with, and everyone deals with this. I deal with this. We all have that issue of things we don't want to come to terms with. But you have to have a little bit of humility here and just have some awareness. Like, yeah, sometimes it could be my own brain or my own ego that's in the way here. Um, so that's another form of conspiracy theory I'm noticing on this iceberg. But it's all very interesting. And the last, I would say, kind of conspiracy that I've been seeing is the conspiracy theory about anything involving corporations and governments and the media. I think that's the gray area. Okay, corporations have been caught doing very unethical things, and I would not put it past them to cover up, let's say, cures for cancer, cures, ways to cure certain diseases that are healthier and there's less side effects than the drugs they're pushing. It is incumbent on us to have some kind of open-mindedness, to be a good citizen, to be using your mind for good, to seek God. You can't be this person that says, screw it, it's too complicated, I don't want to have anything to do with it, whatever. Okay? Not only is that an issue, but that will get you killed, that will ruin your life, that will keep you from helping others. Okay? There is truth out there. You just have to judge sources. You just have to want it. You have to want truth. And you have to believe that the truth is good. And again, that's the big difference between Catholicism and scientism or crazy Gnostic cults. Okay? We believe we have a half full understanding. We have a faith that God is love. He's beautiful. He's infinite. He's truthful. He's here. He wants to make us happy. To get there, there may be a lot of uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world. But in the end, God is good and it's worth it. Even if you got to hit every branch on the way down, or even if it's one step forward, two steps back, and three steps forward, and one step back, and that's just how life is, it's worth it. And that's why I love my prayer life, and that's why I love this group. It's because I'm still grounded. No matter what happens, I'm going to be grounded in that truth and hope. Ground yourself in that truth and hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And perhaps it's good to look at good sources. Look for good thinkers and good people of God. Look for, like, for example, you look at great saints, right? You look at just how they're always persecuted. Even Jesus was persecuted. How they had their own struggles. They had their humble beginnings. We all do. You look at people like the first abolitionists. Um, you look at the people who started the United States of America, how they started with so few. You look at Aristotle and Socrates, and you look at all of these people with humble beginnings. Yes, there are people that that have their own little exclusive, strange, culty kind of solipsistic spirit to it, like we're the chosen people, and we don't care about anyone else, or I have all the truth, I am the secret keeper of all truth. There's people with that mentality in science and religion, yes, but there's also humble people who seek truth, and believe it or not, when you really look at history, they blow the uh, egomaniacs out of the water. People remember them. They do not remember the Adolf Hitlers. They do not remember the Karl Marxes. They do not remember the Prophet Manny. They do not remember any of this. They do not. They have such a bigger impact because they touch people's lives with love and truth, and they change things for the better. And that is why history is so important. It's not just learning the mistakes, it's learning about the good. It's learning that there is some transcendental truth and beauty that we can aim for. So you don't have to throw out everything that sounds strange. You just have to be a little bit sober minded, have a little bit of childlike wonder, and test the spirits, discern what is sound and what isn't. And it takes some time. That's life. Life does not get figured out immediately. So I will continue to watch Wendigoon's Icebergs because maybe there is something that is true that the media, wow, the media covering up things? Oh, couldn't be. But the government, the media, the newspapers didn't cover or cover it up. There, I do believe that. That is historically evident that people in power can cover up the truth. We need to get over that. But at the same time, I'm not just going to go along with the ramblings of whoever thinks they've experienced super God or whatever. Okay? It's a balance, all right? I'm looking for the truth. I'm not going to despair, and I'm not going to turn to a narcissist and say, whatever. But I'm also not going to have my head get so big my brains fall out. So I usually don't do Q&A, but I have forsaken it a bit. So I want to check out the comments here. Hi Mimi, welcome to the back to the show. Left Coast, Portland, Oregon. Money and depopulation, absolutely. You can't throw out conspiracy theories. By the way, did you know that the word conspiracy theory was actually invented by the CIA to discredit things that they didn't want people looking into? But here you have Bill Gates with this big fat mouth. You know what? They probably are getting rid of Bill Gates and letting him get hit by sexual accusations because he's got a big fat mouth. He and Nancy Pelosi, they all they're like the envious second and third in command that want to be, if anyone watches Transformers, they're like Starscream and Megatron's like, Starscream, just knock that off. You're ruining the whole thing. You're blowing it. I'm sorry, Megatron. I'm just so excited. I want to be in control of everything. He's the envious Starscream. That's what they remind me of. They just open their big fat mouths and they're openly talking about population control and whatever. So if the evil, if the evil Illuminati people say it, I'm going to listen to it. All right, if they're actually saying it, the Great Reset or whatever, yeah, it's not just a conspiracy theory. They're literally saying that. They're admitting to it. If there is, remember the time when it was so silly to believe that there were people that worship the devil or Satanism. Well, now there's literal organized Satanism, right, where you're supposed to pretend that doesn't exist. Well, that's just too scary. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that maybe a political party that I voted for my entire life was lying to me. Politicians lying to me can't be possible. It can only be the other side that's lying to me. Oh no, no, I'm a baby. I can't handle it. It's silly. So you should seek the truth in that. You shouldn't seek your own bias. Um, Cheryl says, another dangerous pattern of thought I have been noticing lately is the Christian outlook. What if we had it wrong the entire time, which seems prevalent in smaller denominations? Well, yes, and that's the thing. There's no orthodoxy here. Um, did you know that even the Buddhists have orthodoxy and they struggled with that? What happened was after Buddha came and went, they had a council of Buddhists. And the Buddhists realized they had to create some orthodoxy in what Buddhism was and wasn't. And they had an issue with that because the Indian culture is very open to, a guru or someone else having a different derivation of Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever than the other guy. It's a very big part of their culture, still is. This guru says that, and that guru says that, and maybe I'll follow that guru. Okay. Um, and there were people in China mixing Taoism and they were summoning spirits and things into their Buddhist temples and trying to make their own thing. Also, Manichaeism was coming into the play, and a few other religions. And from that integration of different spiritualities came Pure Land Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. And I did not know that until recently. And Pure Land Buddhism has so many different new ideas. A lot of the times, what you think is Buddhism is really Pure Land Buddhism, like where they have all this, they pray to Buddha, and all these different Bodhisattvas and Buddha statues. So it seems more like a normal religion. Whereas the Buddha never taught about that, you see. The Buddha never taught that you could pray to someone who's already a Buddha to help you become a Buddha, and that Buddha would have some kind of supernatural power in order to enlighten you faster. Which sounds like, what is this not Christianity now? Like, so the Buddhas have power, but they're not God. It's very confusing. um, so there needs to be some kind of orthodoxy and grounding in divine revelation while you take on the possibility of new phenomena happening. So that's what I'm all about, and that's what makes life exciting, right? Like, I am not against the idea, for example, of deliverance, and the idea of deliverance and charismatic gifts came from the the Dusquini University. Some Protestants came over, and some Catholics got the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Okay, and many people still very against in the Catholic Church are against that, and some Protestants are against that too. Um, but the difference there is if these people who do deliverance, who have charismatic gifts, still believe in the gospel, they're still Orthodox Catholics. They believe in the sacraments. They believe in the teachings of the church. Oh, and they certainly do. They're on fire. I mean, they are out in the front lines, and many of them pray the rosary, and many of them go to adoration, and many of them like are interested in deeper prayer, interior life. They look into this writings of the saints, and they're not changing the message of our faith. And what am I like? What am I supposed to say here? Like, until further notice, I'm not going to call it demonic. Or I'm not going to say you have no place here. However, on the other hand, if someone is doing Reiki, which John Calcis, who isn't here, or trying to sneak in another religion into the Catholicism, saying, well, man, Christ consciousness, and Jesus went to India, and and then it's really bad when currently the new thing is, well, Jesus and Lucifer are the same thing. Oh yeah, you got big brains there. You got real big brains. That makes total sense. Yeah, yeah. Jesus and Lucifer are the same thing. Yes. Um, then you have a problem. Then you're not talking about Christianity anymore. But in the context of the teachings of the church, there's all kinds of stuff. There's different spiritualities. There's demonology. There's it's just endless. So God is very exciting and interesting, and He's the Lord of hosts. He created the universe. I'm not gonna just dismiss everything that is. Wow, that's weird. That's interesting. Most people don't even know there's 9 choirs of angels. I mean, check that stuff out. That stuff is far out. Um, I mean, you were talking about something that each angel's a species and just surpasses any anything in glory here on earth. And there's 9 choirs of these guys, these servants of God. Each choir is more glorious than the next, and each angel is individually a different angel, and they have their own different jobs. And then oh yeah, and then some of them have apparently multiple roles. So Saint Michael's a seraphim and an archangel, because these are like job descriptions. Anyway. That's just one example. So and I hope this helps. I hope people that have been struggling with this either or mentality, or just something that is very strange about the way they look at things. Stay open minded, be childlike, but stay grounded. It is possible to do both, and the God can help you do both. Yeah, Elizabeth. So let me get this straight. The serpent who's tempted Adam and Eve was actually Jesus. That makes sense. So the most egoistic and narcissistic being in the universe is also the most selfless and humble being in the universe. Oh, that's wow. We got some really big geniuses running these new religions coming out. Well, that makes total sense. And then let me do you something even better. Um, there's people that started in this QAnon movement. Now, I'm not blaming all of QAnon. I'm not against QAnon, but there are New Agers that got in there, and then some people got deceived, and they're like, "Well, okay, let's get this straight. If the reptilians exist, that means that the New Agers are right about things, and if the New Agers are right about things, therefore." Maybe we are in a flat earth, because we can't trust the government, and we can't trust the deep state. So maybe the reptilians are lying to us, and we're all living on a flat earth in the solar system, which is blocked off from the true reality. And the true reality, you see, because there is these other liars that came in and said, well, because the word El is describing a pagan god in the Bible, which is true. There is a pagan god named El. Well, because El, the letters El, are also in one of the words for God or something like that. Like it was like Jehovah. It was something that sounded like Jehovah or Yahweh. Well, that means that Yahweh in the Old Testament is actually the false god, and there actually is a heresy that condemned by the Catholic Church where people that did believe this. Saint, what's his name? Saint Dominic had to deal with this, and so the real God, who's nice, has to be Jesus. And if the Catholics are worshiping the sun and Jupiter because of the connection to the pagan god and the Romans, then maybe now people are taking on another form where they only believe in Jesus, and then now that they're getting New Agey, since all is one. If all is one, then Jesus is the same as Lucifer, and if we're all is one, then Jesus and Lucifer are us, which means we're all God. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with, guys. That's what I'm telling you is out there. So you don't have to go that far. And that is my analysis of the conspiracy iceberg. I hope it helps. I hope I have introduced this idea of intellectual integrity and discipline that is needed more so than ever. The more prophecies, apparitions, ideas, philosophies, and whatever is out there, we need to just be more discerning and careful and have integrity and check things out, and not completely disbelieve everything lest we just fall into the pit, but not believe everything lest we go literally insane. So that's it. God bless, and it was great to be back, and see you on any other shows coming up soon. Bye bye.